Thank you, everyone. A pleasure to see you all today. It's our pleasure to introduce you to the capabilities of our carbon market intelligence platform. My name is Juan Carlos Arredondo. I'm the Director of Knowledge, Policy and Advocacy at Abatable. I recently joined Abatable in that capacity, but I come from 20 years of experience working on climate policy design and implementation, and of course, things related to carbon market. And I am bringing that expertise to help us enrich our market intelligence platform, and for sure for you to have more and better insights that can guide you in your investment decisions. And together with me is James. James?
Thanks, Juan Carlos. Thank you everyone for attending. My role at Abatable is to work with investors to help them identify project investment opportunities within the voluntary carbon market, to help them build portfolios or find individual projects from the market. And the way we do that is firstly by trying to understand deeply investor mandates, and then through our deep connection with developers throughout the market, helping them identify the opportunities that best fit with that mandate. We have a very, as Juan Carlos has touched on and Juan Carlos manages, we have at Abatable a really strong policy knowledge and data capacity. And that forms the bedrock of all the work that we do when we're engaging with investors. So it helps us drive insights, helps us identify the projects that we think are powerful opportunities for investors. And what we've tried to do and what we have done is build that into a very useful product tool that investors can engage with to help drive deeper insight into the market and make more informed, confident investment decisions. So that's the product that we're going to be showing you today and taking you on a journey to show you how you can utilize that better to engage with Abatable and make investment decisions in the market. So I'll hand back to Juan Carlos now for us to start the demo.
Thank you, James. So many of you have been navigating our market intelligence platform. You have been looking into different aspects of it. But one of the things that we want to bring to you today is how this may look like from a perspective of an investor. Now, what is the investor journey and how an investor can use the platform in a manner that is meaningful to their decision making. So the purpose of today's session is to show you how this can happen and to help you become more familiar with the capabilities of our platform. So what we are going to do today together with you is to navigate the various sections of our platform, to comment on the type of questions that an investor may have and how they can use the platform to inform their decisions and to conduct all of the due diligence that they may be having. Typically, as many of you will surely know, when exploring carbon market opportunities, investors are looking for clarity, are looking for transparency, are looking for certainty for their investments. And often that means going deep into investment opportunities, conducting in-depth due diligences, but also inform their journey by way of understanding the context where the investment can happen. So it's very common for investors to get to know the investment environment and how that may change, but also to have an understanding of the risks that may be associated to the place and the activities in which they want to put their money on. So it's not uncommon for these type of questions to come in that journey. For instance, where is a good place to invest in carbon markets? What are the type of policy developments that are happening in that country that may impact in a certain way my investment? Or for instance, what is the type of experience that a country may have in relation to carbon markets? Has it engaged in the past in carbon markets or not? Does it host a significant activity on carbon markets? Or is it prepared to further host additional projects in the future? And connected to this, of course, what are the type of risks that may be tied to investment in that country? And how these countries participate in relation to the market trends that we are observing in the market. So for instance, what are the type of activities hosted, or what are the prices at which typically the carbon credits from a specific project in this country may be positioned in the market. So with that, what I will do is jump right away into our platform and start that journey together with you. So when you join the platform and you come and log in, you will have this type of view. No? That's us. No? Today, But what we want to start the journey with is precisely on the intelligence tools. And as you know, there are different sections on the intelligence bit, but let's also start with the VCM Investment Index. Because if you want to understand where to invest and what type of country could be the host of your investment, the host of your activity, you may be well informed by looking at the type of ranking that we are generating in our VCM Investment Attractiveness Index. So in this context, we are looking at the top 40 countries in relation to the scores that we're producing by way of our assessment of a series of different pillars that define how good or how great this country may be as an opportunity for investment. In that sense, what we look at are different pillars. For instance, how this country behaves in terms of carbon market readiness, what type of Article 6 engagement it may have, or what type of supply or demand may exist in the country, or if they have any previous experience with the voluntary carbon markets, or including CDM, for instance, or if they have anything in relation to RED Plus, just to start with. Similarly, we look at the investment landscape in that country, for instance, the political stability or the financial sanctions that the country may be facing at some point in time, but also the type of inflation and economic related metrics or even the rule of law. And finally, for any country, the type of scoring that we do considers the opportunities in relation to the additional co-benefits that you may have in a project. Things related to climate, nature, and people, just like the biodiversity conservation potential that may exist, or the opportunity for CO2 reduction in that country. So, yes, James, go ahead.
And one thing just to add, I think for me, looking at the index, one of the things I find interesting, and I think from investors that we've spoken to anecdotally is of value, is not just presenting a kind of a static view, it's about the directionality that we're showing. So as you can see, there's ranking points, and there's showing the evolution of the country versus where it placed last year in the index. So I think for an investor, this gives a really powerful perspective on almost where the tide is going on certain markets. So if you're an investor who may be looking to invest in Latin America, for example, and may not yet have an investment footprint there, you can see the direction of travel of countries within that region to give you a sense of really who is taking the most action, who is making the most progress in this space, and therefore which is a country which is not just most investable now, but will be going forward and is making good progress. So I think that's a powerful kind of point that we hear from investors with regards to the index. And I think as well, just having that this first filter of having that macro view of the market to be able to compare and contrast the various countries from across the key geographies within the market is a really powerful kind of starting point to engage with the platform.
And to complement that view, one of the things that we are often asked and we want to bring to you is what are the insights of the country? For instance, if we choose this country just because it's at the top of the list, Colombia, we can go right away into its policy profile, and we will get the insights about Colombia, about what is happening in Colombia, about the market development in Colombia, but also how ready the country is to engage in carbon markets, and what is the overall carbon policy assessment, the scoring that we have created in relation to those pillars. And what is very interesting for an investor is to have a better understanding of how investing there could be facing certain type of risks. What are the risk areas associated to carbon markets that may have to be dealt with, or that will be useful to be informed about for the specific discussions that the investor may have. So just as an example, if this country and every country that is being assessed under the same risk areas, if they have something in relation to the export on VCM credits, do they have any ban on the export of VCM credits? Do they have a conducive, positive environment for you to conduct projects and export the credits outside of Colombia? So those type of insights are generated by our team that conducts the research and prepares the scoring. So for instance, we do look at the different documents and reports, the national reports and regulations that exist for a country in relation to this specific topic. We assess and provide an initial insight about that, but also on the basis of what we see on the documents, on the desk review, plus the interviews that we run with market experts and practitioners in the field, we can assess what may be the forecasted score, what may be the direction of travel precisely in relation to the specific risk area. And we do that for every single country on the same risk areas. So you can have that as a way to compare how countries are evolving, and not just in specific topics, for instance, policy-driven impacts on project economics or property rights, if your interest is in relation to forestry and REDD+. No, what is the situation in that country and how that may be evolving over time. Connected to this is a regional comparison, so you can have a sense of how this particular country sits in relation to other countries in the region. So you can have a sense of whether this is initially of interest, not just Latin America, but in Colombia in relation to other countries in the region.
And I think just to add to that, obviously, obviously, but we're all aware that the market is diffuse, and there's many, as we've kind of touched on, a large amount of geographies to cover. So what we're and a lot of news flow. So keeping track of all these facts across a lot of many different countries is a large task. So I think for investors, having this single source of news flow that is regularly updated with the key events, where we aggregate, analyze this information, is obviously a really valuable tool. And we kind of look at that almost as this can be an extension of your existing in-house due diligence or existing in-house market monitoring. So we're very focused on making sure that this is very usable, actionable knowledge that we're putting into the platform.
And one important aspect of this is that we will tell you when this was last updated. We aim to update this on a regular basis. We try to conduct interviews with people once a month, if possible, if the people are available. But also we have a consistent and systematic browsing on the national documents for us to be aware of what is going on in the country and to share those insights with you and update the scores. Connected to this is how the country is engaging with carbon markets. We know that part of the discussion, including in international negotiations, are in relation to how this country may be able to achieve its nationally determined contribution, its national targets. And we are providing to you an initial insight on that. So you can have in a single place, for instance, all the information related to their commitments made under the Paris Agreement, the type of rating that may be done by external sources in relation to whether or not this is in line with a global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius, but also the type of characteristics of that NDC, if it's conditional, non-conditional, if it's economy-wide or covers different sectors. And also, quite important in the context of the Paris Agreement, is what is the status of engagement of this country in relation to Article 6 of the Paris Agreement? Have they engaged into some conversations with countries? Do they have a designated national authority who will be overseeing the activities on Article 6? Or have they gone through the process of defining a national registry or some kind of authorization process that is needed for Article 6 cooperation, and so on? Similarly, we are capturing here the type of domestic policies or initiatives that may have an influence on a specific project type that are relevant for this country. For instance, in this case, anything related to REDD+, including the National REDD+ strategy, the Safeguard Information Systems, or the National MRV system for REDD+. So in a nutshell, in a single place, you can have information about the characteristics of that country and to be updated in terms of what is happening and what you should be aware of. Connected to a country, of course, is to have a better understanding of the political and economic landscape. At the end of the day, an investment will be influenced or maybe in the context of what happens economically speaking in a country. So we bring those insights as well by collecting information of different metrics created or developed by international agencies, multilateral agencies, for instance, some indexes from the World Bank telling you about the political stability of the country, or if there is any indication of corruption cases and what is the index or the score for that country in this topic, or how it operates in relation to the rule of law, the security of land tenure, or also some general metrics about unemployment, foreign direct investment, or GDP for the country. So this is just a way for us to bring to you some metrics that could be useful for you when exploring an investment in a single country. From a capital markets perspective, one of the things that we are constantly asked is, well, but what about the activity, the capital markets activity in this geography? So that's why in our capital market intelligence we have these key market metrics. And by way of the key market metrics, what we aim to do is to bring to you a summary of the key developments in the country. What is the status of these things? So how many projects exist in the country? How many developers exist? What is the situation with the supply and the demand of carbon credits in Colombia? What are the number of issued credits? No? How many have been retired? And not just only that, but also which registries are the ones operating and issuing credits in this country. For instance, if you look at the registries in Colombia, over the whole time in which the country has participated in carbon markets, you will see the composition of who has been active in Colombia and who has been issuing carbon credits to projects in Colombia. And if you look at that over the last year, over the last 12 months, you can see a change in the composition of that. So that tells you, for instance, who is the type of registry that you may have an interest of working with, or have your project registered if you're thinking about this geography. Similarly, we have a view about the project types that are being developed in this jurisdiction. Just as with registries, you can look at the historical development in terms of project types and the composition. So you can hover on this and look at the amount of tons of CO2 that have been issued for different project types in the country. And you can look at that also over the last 12 months. So you can see, for instance, a change in the composition of projects from the perspective of credits issued, renewable energy losing part of its contribution to the overall credits issued in Colombia and losing against the REDD+ and afforestation and reforestation. So with that, you can have a sense of what is happening in the jurisdiction. And here are just some summary metrics that will highlight to you what is happening in the country. At this point, as you may guess, you may want to know more about the dynamics of the market in Colombia and how it sits in relation to other jurisdictions and other project types. So if you go to the pricing insights on the left-hand side panel, you can start to look at the prices for different project types. So if your interest is to invest into REDD+ projects or afforestation or reforestation or any other type, you can come and look at the ranges of prices that we have observed over the last 12 months for this project type in general. But if you click into this and you want to go deeper into the jurisdiction of your interest, for instance, Colombia, you just have to come to the filters, choose the region of your interest, for instance, Colombia, and you can see the data points for Colombia. The more specific your filtering is, of course, you will be getting more specific numbers on less data points. And why do I highlight that? Because what we do is we have a constant interaction with project developers and brokers and intermediaries in carbon markets, across the systems, just for us to have a sense of what are the prices in the market, what are the transactions happening, at which price are credits being exchanging hands. And also we cooperate a lot with buyers who want to run requests for proposals or requests for quotations from us, and us contacting project developers and then getting different price points for different activity types and different regions of the world. So that's how we end up with having a range of prices, for instance, in this case, for the activity type of REDD+, that shows the minimum, the maximum, in terms of quartiles, but also the details about where those transactions are happening, where are those prices coming from, and the characteristics of that, vintages, the source of the information, the volumes, the price per ton, and if they have any CCB eligibility, for instance, the ones with Vero, with VCS. But you can go back to project location, you can go back, for instance, to Colombia and see the specifics for Colombia. If you wanted to incorporate also another jurisdiction, for instance, Brazil, just for the sake of comparison, you can do that. And you can see how this changes slightly, and you can start to see the details of different transactions over time for different vintages under different registries different quantities. So you can have a sense of what may be the developments in the country. And similarly, of course, you can look into different registries, not the ones operating in that jurisdiction or not. For instance, if I click Red Plus Art, we know that it is not operating in Colombia, so you will not get anything in Colombia. You will have the Guyana bit, which is just underneath. But that's the type of filtering that you can do for you to have a better sense of what do we have here. For instance, prices in relation to only trades, not the transactions in the market, quotes only, or information that is coming from developers, brokers, intermediaries, or so on. So of course, this is different for different project types, but all of that brings us a rich data set that we are offering to you through the market intelligence platform. Similarly, if you are interested in to look at historic prices, you can go back in time and see what is the situation for this project type over time. So for instance, since April 2017, for which we have data, you can see all of the numbers and the maximum and the minimum prices observed in the market based on trades or quotations. And similarly, you can also look at, for instance, Colombia, the country's region certifications registries of interest. So that will give you an indication of how the project types in this jurisdiction have performed over time in relation to prices. And of course, you can go back and take a look at the circumstances in the country that have changed at different moments in time to have a better sense of what has impacted prices in this country or on a global level. There are other pieces of information here in relation to forward prices, vintage trends, and so on. That are being constantly complemented by new information, by new data sources that we are working for us to provide to you. And with that, you can have a good sense of everything that is happening and the risks that can be associated and the prices that can be observed, etc., etc., etc. One final piece of advice: if you have an interest in a specific country, you can click on any of the alerts, for instance, Brazil and Colombia, and that will tell us, the Abatable team, that you all have this kind of interest. And what will happen is we will make sure that all the information is up to date in our platform, and not just only that, you will get regular updates on these countries, depending on, of course, of what happens in the countries, but we will make sure that you receive the alerts for the specific countries that you want to receive information on. So with that, James, any additional comments on how this platform and this information helps investors?
Absolutely. So I think what I find interesting is looking at the two, obviously the kind of initial part of the first part of the platform we showed you around the VCM index, looking at the various scorings related to policy and dynamics within the countries, and the initial policy scoring elements around risk factors, I think are a really nice summary of where to invest or why to invest in certain countries. And I think looking at the pricing point and that initial section on the policy profile that details the various project types, the growth sectors. So looking at Colombia, obviously seeing that ARR was a sector that was expanding, and we're seeing more ARR projects in Colombia. That gives you almost the how to invest in certain geographies. So I think there's a really nice blend of different features and different insights that as an investor you can get from the platform. And anecdotally speaking to existing subscribers, I think one of the key things that they utilize the platform for is, one, to maybe underwrite their existing thinking. So they may have views on countries or project types, and the data that we have here can underwrite that. And in some cases, it may be breaking new ground for them, so helping for them to generate new theses. But this can also feed in to investment memos that you may be presenting to investment committees, can be data that you can leverage to ratify thinking and present arguments on certain project types or countries internally. So I think that's really what we're seeing investors use the platform for at the moment. And I think one of the interesting things that we're very keen on is to engage with investors to understand how best they would like the platform to be used, what elements we could add. And we're always looking for insights and to refer back to our clients to make sure we're developing a platform to best suit investors' needs. So we're very keen to engage with all investors on that.
And to further help investors, we are constantly looking at the important themes that may be existing in the market, no, the new developments. For instance, this piece that we just recently published, yesterday, on Article 6.4, given that the COP29 has started, and there are plenty of questions about how this may become operationalized, and whether what was decided yesterday has an influence on this or not. So you can have an important view, an important description and insights about what it means for the market, and how the international processes may further refine your investment decision. So we're constantly striving to make sure that you have up-to-date information on several topics, in addition to the specifics of the countries and the prices and the scoring that we do with our tools. Okay, I think we are on time. Thank you everyone for joining. It has been a pleasure to have the opportunity to explain this to you. If you have any questions and you want more specific conversations on this intelligence platform and its capabilities, please feel free to reach out to us. You will receive an email with additional information from us, and a thank you note to you. Thank you everyone. Nice to see you all. Have a nice day.